This week on Illegal Aliens, Michael mixes up his alien icons, Liz lets a radio DJ push her around, and Maria steals Alex's band. I've heard that the steak is tender but needs a little salt. We're looking at Blind Date, episode 14 of season 1 of Roswell. I'm Chris.
And I'm Claire, and this is Illegal Aliens, a Roswell podcast. Blind Date first aired on February 9th, 2000.
It was written by Thania St. John, who we last saw writing for Into the Woods, and directed by Keith Samples.
Keith went on to direct Oz, Felicity, and Canadian shows like Republic of Doyle and Mr. D. He also worked as a producer on feature film Election. Let's start the recap.
Liz is picked as the winner for a radio competition that Maria entered them both into, where the radio station will pick a dream blind date for her. The next day at school, as girls she doesn't know congratulate Liz, Kyle watches from a distance and tries to sympathize with Max over their mutual heartbreak. Max insists that he was never with Liz in the first place.
At the crashdown, the radio DJ interviews Liz about her dream guy. Constantly looking over at Max, Liz answers that she wants a dark-haired, mysterious man from far away.
Liz dresses for her evening out and fantasizes briefly about Max appearing and convincing her to ditch the blind date. Disappointed, she heads downstairs to meet Doug Shello, an archaeology student from the State University.
Max is listening to the date on the radio when Kyle and his friends show up, drunk. He talks Max into playing designated driver for them and offers tickets to the concert at the end of the blind date festivities.
Liz and Doug have dinner, starting to whisper so that what they say isn't analyzed in detail by the DJ, and begin to bond over the crazy situation. Outside, Kyle prophesizes love for the happy couple. The DJ demands a first kiss from Liz and Doug. They deliver, but coordinate an escape from the DJ and radio crew.
Outside, Kyle convinces Max to take a drink from his flask, and immediately his speech is slurred. And Kyle is entertained until Max proposes a race down the street, and disappears.
Kyle finds Max sitting on a nearby roof and literally talks him down. Max tells Kyle that he's done bottling his feelings. Kyle asks Max why he and Liz aren't together. Max says that he fits Liz's dream date profile, dark, mysterious, and from a faraway place, and proposes to Kyle that they can win her back, together.
In the crashdown, Liz and Doug try to break the ice away from the DJ. Doug makes a joke about meeting aliens in Roswell, and Liz is both uncomfortable and speechless.
On Liz's balcony, Max draws a heart with his and Liz's initials and makes it glow with his powers. Kyle asks Max personal questions and proposes rummaging through Liz's underwear drawer. And then Liz and Doug appear, still trying to dodge the DJ. Max tells her that they're both drunk and have come to win her back.
Liz talks to Max all alone, and he says he only had one sip of alcohol, but it hasn't worn off yet. Kyle wrestles with Doug to keep him away, and as Max whisks Liz off into the night, and the DJ shows up, spotting the graffiti heart, and asking who ME is.
Walking the streets of Roswell, Max sweet-talks Liz, but she doesn't fall for the drunk talk and asks what happens tomorrow. When she tells him that they could never be normal together, Max makes the parking meter shoot fireworks and asks, "What's great about normal?"
Liz calls for a taxi, but struggles to name the address, and Max flags down the radio van for a ride. At the concert hall, the DJ demands Liz choose from her admirers on air. Doug makes a case for a normal date, Kyle goes off to throw up, and Max gives Liz a kiss, which comes with flashbacks of their night together.
Liz is won over, but Max is suddenly sober. He apologizes and runs off. Liz follows him, asks if he meant what he told her, and Max says he doesn't remember their night together. But he goes back to Liz's balcony, touches the graffiti heart, and makes it glow bright red again.
Alex and his band are finalists to play at the radio station, a special blind date for their concert, but need to find a new singer, and Maria volunteers. She arrives at their practice session full of advice and sheet music for popular songs they can sing covers of. The band members protest, but they are won over when Maria sings for them.
At the audition, Maria is late and the judges are unimpressed by the bland, bleak songs, but Maria charms them into listening to one of her cover songs. When the radio station picks them, Maria buys new clothes for the guys, but Alex asks she leave them alone as true high school geeks. Liz manages to broker a compromise between their musical styles.
Backstage, a record company scouts for Maria, and Alex fails to stake a claim on the band being anything more than her backup sound.
At the concert, Maria panics and Alex tries to reassure her, but at the worst moment, a radio station exec tells her that the big surprise band was delayed at the airport, so Maria and the boys are now the headliners. After Max and Liz's big moment, Maria summons up the nerve to sing to distract further attention from her best friend and performs a haunting cover of Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight.
At the crashdown, Michael tells Max and Isabel Gain that the cave painting is a map. When Max protests about the murderous fourth alien, Isabel tries to keep the peace and Michael stalks off. Isabel tells Max that Michael's search for the answers keeps him going, and that she's not sure what 50 years alone would be like for any of them.
Michael knocks at Isabel's window and tells her he's figured out the map. Isabel proposes going to the concert instead, since Alex got them tickets. But Michael is determined to get answers, so Isabel goes along.
Outside the library, Michael talks about constellations and planets, and that the cave symbols match with locations in Roswell, which led him to the library. Isabel asks how he thought to do this, and Michael says he just knew. Isabel worries about sending a signal to a killer alien, but Michael says there's only one way to find out, and burns the symbol into the library lawn. Isabel reluctantly helps.
But nobody comes as the fire burns down, so Michael eventually asks Isabel to cover the traces for him. Michael admits that nobody's coming for him, but Isabel says she always will, whenever he needs her.
Later, after the concert, a shadowy figure comes to the library lawn, relighting Michael and Isabel's symbol. He drops the picture of the three of them with Max into the flames and watches it burn, then walks away.
Yeah.
Right, I still haven't decided who most needs hitting with a damp haddock, so why don't you start this one off?
Right, okay. Well, I do have a thesis that there's a lot in this episode which is kind of concerned with fear and facing fears.
Yeah?
Especially Max's plotline, which is possibly just because I've been repeating episode after episode. Max is staying away from Liz because he's afraid. And this time it seems very clear that one of the effects of the alcohol, maybe the major effect, is that it is suppressing his fear. Max is fearless when he is drunk, and that is what lets him say all those things to Liz. That's what lets him use his powers practically in front of Kyle's nose without any worries.
Yeah, I was noticing that.
And then at the very end, he becomes sober again and is completely afraid, so much so that fairly clearly, to me at least, he tells Liz that he doesn't remember. When he remembers everything, he just isn't ready to deal.
Oh, that's an interesting read. I took him literally. I was brought up Presbyterian. I think this might be where this starts to become apparent. No,
yeah. I think that was a fan wank that was fairly common when the series was first airing, because if he didn't remember anything, why would he go back to Liz's balcony?
Oh, of course. Oh, I like that reading much better.
And I was wondering a little bit what it is about the kiss that brings Max back to normal. It could, of course, just be a play on the fairy tale tropes. Where
that's exactly what I have in my notes.
But I was also wondering if it's almost a call out to Icarus, that he has gotten too close to the source of his fear.
Oh.
And that's what brings him back.
Oh, that's a wonderful catch. Because, of course, we do play up the sort of fairy aspects of it. You know, everything from music box chimes to sirens and all sorts.
Yes.
But, no, Icarus falling to Earth is... I like that a lot.
Right.
I think it could be either of those.
Yes.
Really.
Yes, and no matter what, it's completely heartbreaking for anybody who's been rooting for Max and Liz to get things sorted out for the past couple weeks.
It really is, but on the other hand, we finally let them have this conversation that they've been needing to have. And I'm so much happier if Max does in fact remember that they've had it. That's minus one person from the list of the wet haddock. No, I really do like quite a lot of this episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there. Is there anything more about Max and Liz's interaction between themselves that we
Not that I can think
need to
of
cover?
offhand. Shall we talk about the others, and if anything else comes up, we circle back?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the next loop around, I think, would be bringing Kyle into it, since
Yes.
he
Who is
bounces off
on
the most a
really
bunch.
good, mostly good form this week.
Well, I'm actually not entirely convinced about Kyle, especially since the whole man-eater thing of narrative he gives about Liz at the beginning seems to be wildly off
That is hugely off the mark. That is not good,
after the
Kyle.
and kind of throughout a lot of it he is I think very charming and funny. He's still maybe not as admirable a character as he will be later, but he does perform a couple of very good roles in the plot. He is the one who is provoking and needling Max at the beginning and provides the alcohol.
Yes.
And then he does, ask the central question of Max: why aren't you and Liz together? What's in the way?
Yes, which is some of my favourite Kyle. He sees the truth, he realizes it, and rather than be a hindrance to it, he's, I don't know, supportive is not quite the right word, but he's definitely not discouraging.
Yeah, yeah, I did like his line about kind of, if we manage to win Liz back, exactly how do we divide her?
Yes.
But
Alternate
after that point,
Saturdays.
yes. But after that point, he really does kind of fade into the background and support Max more than pursue Liz for himself.
He does, and this is sort of our first glimpse of possibly future Kyle, I guess.
Yeah,
He's not
yeah.
there perfectly formed, but, the groundwork
No,
is
far from it yet, but yeah, I
developing.
can see how we're actually getting there. And I really did groan when the DJ was calling him Lyle twice,
Yes.
which,
Luckily, they stop after that, which is the right place to do it, because one more time, and I think my patience with the
yeah,
radio DJ, which was already thin.
yeah. I was actually a little bit frustrated that we didn't get to 3 repetitions of it, but maybe that's just me and my constant looking for 3 beats.
Well, yeah, I wanted it for the sake of the 3 beat, but also, before I threw the computer across the room, they had to drop the joke.
Right, yes. And oddly, I was reminded just from the name Lyle that
Mm,
in the TV show Heroes, the cheerleader Claire has a bratty little brother,
mm.
but his name is Lyle, and so I was always kind of thinking of that
I
during
suppose
those
you could make the
repetitions.
case, too, that if you wanted the 3 beat particularly, that the DJ finally getting it right was the final subversion of that
Yeah, yeah, that
joke.
does actually make sense. And the fact that Kyle just doesn't care by that point.
No, by that point he's green around the gills and just wants to lie down.
Yes. Yes, and I did like the line about just happy to be nominated.
Yes,
Even when he's about to throw up, he can still turn a joke.
he can. He can.
Okay.
What else?
So yeah, I really liked the whole bit with Alex and Maria and their musical misadventures.
I do too, although Maria frustrates me slightly, because I know she's trying to be well intentioned to both friends in this episode. But if it were me, I'd have run screaming from the room in both scenarios a while ago, so
Right.
Alex and
Yes.
Liz are very tolerant people.
Yeah. Yeah. It also it makes me almost disappointed that we don't get to see some of what gets almost retconned with Maria and her relationship with music later on. In that, she has already been to a songwriter's workshop of her own at this point, so she should be more sympathetic with the notion of wanting to sing your own songs instead of cover songs.
Yes, you'd think
And
she would be, but
yes, and Alex, on the other hand, should know that about her and not be just dismissing her as the karaoke girl.
yes, I'm surprised at that from Alex. It didn't feel like him really to me
Yeah,
this episode, or at least that part didn't.
yeah.
He's
Yeah, there could be a really great story about the two of them, both with their musical dreams and kind of their different strategies or attitudes about pursuing them.
Yeah, I would love the choose your own adventure that is Alex and Maria and a band.
Yes.
But we don't seem to be getting much of that.
No, unfortunately.
Which is fine. She does do them a good turn in a roundabout way.
Yes.
She gets them the gig, she helps them with it. It just feels. I don't know,
Yes,
I
and
can
then Alex
understand.
comes around and gives her the pep talk when she's got stage fright, which I did very much like.
I did too, when she really needs it. He is Alex again and he's there, and it's good.
Yes. Yeah, I would actually have liked it if the compromise did touch a little bit on the notion of the costumes and kind of almost you could have a natural compromise with, instead of Maria picking out clothes for the guys, that she like comes along to give her input and to veto anything that's truly hideous while they shop for themselves.
See, that would be good. That would be very good.
Yeah.
Although, as Peacemaker, I think Liz does a reasonably good job.
Yeah.
When called
Considering
upon.
everything else she's got going on.
Oh god, poor Liz.
Yes.
And she does look genuinely overwhelmed that whole first act.
Yes. Yeah, so I have to admit, I just love that image of her in the uncharacteristic hat and the glasses, just, worried that she's going to get mobbed at any moment at school.
Yes, of all the moments to nod to the Raymond Chandler gumshoe, that might be my favourite for its absurdity,
Yes.
No, it's a wonderful moment, that. And also, oh, goodness, well, I don't know, the whole way through her performance is great, but
Yes. Yes.
nice to have that levity.
It is. Yeah. Definitely some nice funny moments in this one. Okay, and are we at Michael and Isabel already?
I think we are. They might be, not to show my hand, they might be my favourite part of this whole episode.
Okay. Well, I have a little bit of ranting to do here.
Oh, well, by all means go.
Firstly, about the symbols.
Yes.
Because the alien iconography is something that I do keep very careful track of. And Michael is completely dropping the ball here. He points to the symbol on the map, which is kind of the broken elliptical arc with a dot inside of it.
Yeah.
And he says that is the sign that Nasedo left us at the cave.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely is not. Nasedo's sign was the whirlpool. It's very similar, but you can tell that the arcs are traveling outward instead of being concentric and lining up with each other.
Ah.
And that the elliptical one is also the one that Michael and Isabel actually light up and burn on the library lawn.
Yes.
And so, presumably, Michael has followed his map actually to the wrong place, which possibly explains why Nasedo didn't get there until hours after they were gone.
Entirely possible. Michael cannot read a map, or he's looking at it upside down. Take your pick.
Yes.
Or maybe Ares wasn't in the Seventh Ascendancy, or whatever it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is the other thing that I wanted to nitpick on, which is that what he said, and I think I actually got it a little bit messed up in the recap just because I was used to a different version of this, but he said, when you take Ares when it's directly overhead, which is going to be in April.
Which we're not, I don't think. Are we?
Yes, but also, no, we're clearly in February because the blind date makes sense as Valentine's Day thing.
Oh, of course, right.
But still, constellations do not have a place at a time of the year. They have a place at a time of the night, which will shift somewhat over the year.
Which Isabel should know because Isabel knows stars, even if Michael's just recently read a book on them.
Yes, we will actually get a version of the significance of Aries in April, which makes better sense later, but this one is not cutting it. And I think it's possible that they were just desperate to write something because shooting had to begin the next day.
You know what? Michael read the Wikipedia article. It hadn't been edited yet. It's not his fault.
Well,
it is. This is very much his plan.
Yes. Oh, yes, it's possible that he picked up Alex's book on the stars and it was actually very badly written.
No wonder Isabel had an issue with it. Not only was he following her that week, it was a bad book.
Right.
Right. No, but astrological oddities aside, I love the sentiment of that scene so much.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of the raw emotional honesty of Michael wanting Nasedo as the father figure so badly and at the same time being afraid that Nasedo would either never meet them or would never step into that role.
Hey, he's got that line about he's not coming, no one's coming.
Yeah. And Isabel, I'll always come for you, which kind of she's so sweet and so supportive, even though it's clear that it's killing her that she and Max are not enough for Michael.
Yes, and even as she's just finished saying, I'm terrified you'll get this thing and you won't need us anymore.
Right, yes.
And the look on her face, she's convinced she'll be superfluous.
And this, of course, is setting up a lot of great stuff that we're going to be diving into immediately next time.
It is. We're seeding next week's plot, and it's a good one, as I
Yeah,
recall.
I have to admit, we get no Isabel and Alex directly this episode. I kind of always was a little disappointed that we didn't have them showing up at the concert and Isabel seeing Alex in his element, that kind of thing.
That would have been nice if Michael had then suggested that having failed to send a message, they go on to the concert.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that ran very late because you can't light fires on public library spaces when people might be walking by.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I
Not
think I
even.
remember. Not even Roswell. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I actually put into a fanfic story something about Isabel just seeing a picture of Alex playing at the concert or something. And
Oh,
that was
that would be
something she
nice.
treasured. Yes. So do you still have something to rant about?
Oh,
Or
I do. Shall we talk about the radio date and all the many things I find wrong with it?
Okay, yes.
It's a very long list. Where do I start? I mean,
Oh, yes.
should we talk about Doug? And I will attempt to be
Okay.
civilized.
Go right ahead.
And how I am deeply uneasy already by the fact that they appear to have randomly pulled a college student out to go on a date with a high school student, which I maybe shouldn't be
Yes.
squeamish about, but I am slightly, so there's that.
Yes. Yes, in a high school sophomore, I think, at this point.
Yeah,
Still.
and we're not sure.
Right.
I'm assuming he's first year college. I'm hoping he's first year college.
I think that actually is in the transcript. Let me see.
Okay, you do that, and I'll go on ranting, because this could go for a while. Let's see. What else? Well, there's also the slight question of why he is on a radio date if he wanted a normal date in the first place. But I am more
Right,
deeply
yes.
troubled by his line about, and I'm possibly being unfair on Doug, about, he says something about all the girls being preoccupied with ancient languages or something. And I sat there
Right.
and thought, is he irritated that they are clever and interested in their work? Because if so, I am rapidly losing the ability to salvage his character.
Yes. Yes, and he, of course, would definitely never be a good match for Liz with that
No.
attitude.
In the words of Mary Wollstonecraft, we are rational creatures. We do sort of have other interests sometimes.
Yes. Yes.
And then there
Okay,
was...
yes. The
Oh, go
DJ
on.
does introduce him as a freshman at the university, so...
Oh, that's good. So we give him points for that. Yeah. Yes, there's also... I don't know. I'm deeply disconcerted by the DJ's suggestion that they practiced the way in which this man was going to kiss Liz.
Yeah, definitely. All kinds of awkwardness.
So
there.
many alarm bells.
Yes.
I mean, he does then say, okay, we'll bolt on 3, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so much of that actually, was uncomfortable because Liz was really just coasting through it. She didn't seem to be interested or engaged at any point, but she just never really wanted to make a scene enough to say, no, I'm not doing this.
Yes, well, and at some point, I think she suggests, and this is where I really ran out of patience with him at the crash down, she says, do you know what, I just want to go see my friends at this concert. He goes, oh, yeah, but we still have an hour.
Right.
And I thought, either you cannot take an obvious social cue, or... I don't know. I read that as her saying, please I want out of this scenario now.
Right.
But I might, again, be misinterpreting it. I don't know.
No, I think that that is completely fair, and that we see just how much she jumps at any excuse to be with Max, even when he is clearly not his usual self.
Yes. Or possibly because of that. I mean, she's obviously hyper alert to something being
Yes.
wrong. She's in on that
Yeah.
secret now. And then we top it all off with when Liz says, "Please, can I have half a minute with Max?" And I
Right.
realise that she's been, I don't know, manoeuvred into this date with Doug. But she
Right.
doesn't even have the grace to say, "Right, 30 seconds, I'll be the other
Right.
side of this door."
Yeah. And Kyle jumps in as
Yes, and Kyle might be my favourite character of anyone in that moment.
right. Yes.
Oh, dear.
Yes, and I did really like the beat with Liz trying to cover for Max with the he says crazy things when he's drunk,
Yes.
and Max is too fearless and honest to even go with that, and he tells the truth.
Yeah, Max, not helpful. But, I mean, I think the other thing that I found bizarre about that date was the radio DJ said, "Oh, we'll leave them to have dinner." And then obviously
Right.
didn't.
Yes.
So we had to
Yes.
watch people watching Liz as if she was in a goldfish bowl.
Yes. Yes. It's incredibly voyeuristic.
Oh, ugh. Yes.
Right.
Voyeuristic is the word, but yes, I will put the haddock away. Rant over. I
Okay.
think. I hope.
And one thing that this reminded me of is that I'm pretty sure that there is a series of blind date fanfics all written by the same person that kind of use the same gag to look at the other couples and have one out of Max and Maria, Alex and Isabel, Kyle and Tess going on the same radio blind date in future years, and how the other person takes it, and what ends up going on, and the dates never go smoothly.
Oh, crumbs. I shouldn't think they would. Although, I do love that when at the height of that argument between Maria and Alex, Liz says, "Look, just be grateful you're not me." They both look as if they're, right, point taken.
Yes.
This could be so much worse.
Yeah. Yeah, though obviously Maria was looking forward to the opportunity if she put both of their names in.
Yeah, I think,
I think that she would thrive on the attention for longer than Liz did anyway.
yes. Yeah, well, I think Maria's just more the sort of person that would throw herself into this as
Yes.
an exercise anyway. I mean, I'm irritated with her too. I think I've said that already for not consulting with Liz in the first place.
Oh, yes.
And I know it's well intentioned. Everything about Maria in this episode is well intentioned.
But,
It's
yes.
just slightly too much or slightly the wrong direction.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, thinking about it, I would think that if Maria had been picked, she might have actually been deliberately played it up trying to get a spark of jealousy out of Michael.
She probably would. Though this would be such a different episode with Maria for its centre.
Yes.
I kind
Yes.
of want to see that now. Someone write it, I promise I won't rant. I think that's. Do you have anything else to say about that story thread?
Not really. See, I thought I was going to have so much to talk about here. So, is there anything that I'm missing? Yeah, going just kind of looping back to
Mm-hmm.
the fear thing again. We kind of have that on the back burner with the fear of Nasedo carrying over from the revelations of last week.
Yes. Just for the record, the idea that you are contacting a potential serial killer, that seems a valid concern to be dismissing out of hand.
True.
As arguments people put forward for not doing this thing Michael go,
Right.
this man might have been killing people for the last 40 years seems a reasonable one.
Yeah. Well, it seems clear that Isabel is already kind of haunted by the notion of what she would have been driven to if she was in Nasedo's place.
Yes, which is an interesting idea, because she's right.
Yeah.
50 years of isolation and what have you has got to be
Yes.
trying.
Isolation and persecution.
Yes. And it's a good point to make too, because that's the argument Max has been making to Valenti from the beginning. There are two sides of every story. This is mine.
Right.
I mean, I'm not telling you all of it, but you've got to take it on evidence that
Right.
I'm what I say I am, and deserving of protection. And Nasedo
Right.
hasn't had anyone to put that case to, so he's found other extremes.
Yeah. And so now I'm wondering if there's any fears that Liz is facing or dealing with in this episode.
Well, she seems genuinely terrified by the whole. Well, no, not terrified, genuinely overwhelmed by all the
Right.
tall, dark strangers. But
Yeah.
actual fears, though.
Yeah, one thing that actually comes close, and it's something that she does actually face in the end,
Hmm.
is that I think that she's afraid of believing all the things that Max is telling her and then having the promises fade away.
Yes. Yes, which is a reasonable fear, really, at this stage,
Oh,
too.
yes. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think that's the closest we get to a fear with her. Unless you're counting that brief moment of alarm when she comes into her room and Max is obviously drunk and God knows what he's told Kyle.
Yes. Yeah, but that's more of. Yeah, it
But
is very
that's more.
literally a borrowed fear. Max is fearless, and
Yeah,
so she has to be afraid on his behalf.
yes. Although that brings me on to something else that I think I wanted to talk about, and I'm just noticing I have in my notes. Max's intoxication, it seems to fluctuate. Is that just me?
Um,
At first,
Possibly.
because at first he takes that sip of alcohol and his vision goes double and the world kind of goes wobbly, and I love the special effects we do for that. But then
Right.
later he seems clear enough to talk coherently about other stuff, especially with Liz. When he
Right.
says it's not wearing off, he's obviously aware something is wrong. So
Right.
he's not so drunk to realize there's a problem.
Yeah, yeah, I think it definitely is going through stages, which probably makes sense on a literal metabolic level. That's kind of, his body
Yeah,
attacks the alcohol, turns it into something else which is not quite as harmful but is harder to get rid of.
well, that makes sense.
And talking about the whole alcohol thing
Hmm.
reminds me of kind of the whole sense of it being kind of this very unique weakness for them, something which affects them in a different way than ordinary people.
It does, but we're only just beginning to see that.
Yeah, yeah, but like for instance, this is really something that none of the serious alien hunters, even Jim Valenti while he's in that role, ever get a clue of, and it is probably good because that is something which could definitely be used as a weapon against them.
Yes. Oh, it absolutely could be.
It
No, it.
reminds me, there's a number of places where I see parallels between Roswell and the Deryni fantasy books by Catherine Kurtz,
Hmm?
which are kind of alternate history. There's a lot of royal dynasty stuff that is supposed to be paralleling England and France, although in their world the countries are actually connected by a land bridge. And there are people who have magical powers and pass them down to their children who are called the Deryni. And kind of based on the political realities, the Deryni are usually either in charge and oppressing others or feared and hunted.
Okay.
And there is a particular chemical called marasha, which is harmless to humans and very serious poison to Deryni. It makes them physically nauseous and all kind of the usual symptoms of a bad but not quite lethal poison. And it also drops all of their magical defenses, so they are helpless if somebody targets them magically while they're dosed.
Yeah. No, that sounds very much like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But luckily, no one quite discovers alcohol as alien kryptonite, so we're okay for the time being.
Yes.
It's it's an interesting one though, because I don't think. Well, we've seen Michael seriously ill, but this isn't that.
No.
This just kind of. Well, I think Max says, doesn't he? It takes away all his inhibition,
Yes.
and yeah, puts him in a position where he do things he'd never do.
Right.
And I do sort of wonder. It struck me in one of the rewatches as I was going through this episode. I don't know what Kyle thinks Max does to get that finger paint on the roof or the graffiti,
Right.
but there's no
Yes.
paint there.
No. He is not really caring at that point. That is drug Kyle, I think, for you.
I think it is.
Yes. Just talking about what base he's gotten to with Liz in her underwear drawer.
Good God,
So
yes.
I have to admit, I did love Max's little perspective there, that he clearly looks at kind of the emotional connection he has with Liz and the physical affection Kyle was able to get, and has no question that he's in the better position.
Oh, absolutely. One of the many reasons I like Max.
Yes, yes,
Sees the depth of this thing, appreciates it for having depth.
yes.
And, yeah, even drunk, Max can be a very likable person.
Oh, yes, yes.
So many leagues ahead of Doug, who even sober I struggle to like.
Oh, yeah. Yes, drunk Doug would either be the worst or would possibly be better. We don't know.
A very low bar when it comes to
Yes.
improving Doug.
Yes. Oh, and one other fandom shout out that this is the episode which gives the shipper name for Max and Liz fans. They are Dreamers, Dream Girls, or Dream Boys.
Oh, is that where that came from?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
I have wondered for years. I thought I understood all the others, but that one I just had to go with. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so should we talk about favorite moments?
Why not?
So yeah, mine would have to be kind of the kiss and Max's reaction to it.
Yeah, that's a lovely moment.
Again, it's kind of bittersweet, but so much emotional depth in there.
And it highlights their connection so perfectly.
Yes.
And how much they've come to mean to each other. That is a good one. I think mine is Isabel saying, "I'll always be there," or words to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, not quoting.
Yeah, yeah.
Although, if I have to pick one that's not soppy, I'm tempted to go with Kyle saying, "No, this is none of your business."
Oh! Which is a turnaround of what Liz was telling him at the motel in
Oh, so it
25
is. Well caught.
Nice! Yeah.
One week I will do
Yeah,
this properly and have one favourite thing, promise.
Okay. Right. Yeah, just one reference to the Isabel thing. There's a song by a Canadian country pop singer called Amanda Stott that I always loved and that always made me think of Isabel and Alex's relationship more than that, but it's called You Can Always Reach Me.
Oh, that does sound like them, yeah.
And it does actually have echoes of Isabel and Michael as well, their friendship and affection as well.
I will always love that relationship and the way it's portrayed and the affection they have, and I will always want it to have more time on screen than we ever get, but
yeah,
that is possibly me in a corner, so that's okay.
All right.
No, I love how we emphasize them as family, especially,
Yes.
all through this episode.
Okay, so for episode MVP, I really think that this actually is Jason Behr's moment. He really does shine.
He does. He does.
With, of course, a tremendous supporting performance from Sherry Appleby, but
Yeah, I mean, they both do incredibly well, but I think you're right. He gets more to do that's more interesting seems unfair, but
well,
just
yeah.
more.
Yes.
For lack of a better word.
Yes, more emotionally open, for one thing, which
Absolutely.
definitely suits his strengths here, yeah.
And he does very well that sort of heartbeat turn from the comedic to the high-octane emotional moments, and he lands all of it.
Right. Yes. Yes.
It's not an easy thing. No, I'm happy giving it to him if...
Okay. Oh, by the way, there was one thing I wanted to ask you. It's possibly a little bit odd at this point, but it is just a joke which I don't understand, and I was wondering if
right.
I'm alone here. But at the very beginning, when the girls are teasing Alex about the band name, and he says, "What's wrong with the wits?" And Maria says that just an SOA and it's what you really are, and I'm not quite sure what she's trying to get to.
I think she means they're not clever, was my read,
Ah.
which seems ungenerous. I was preoccupied by the fact the band name had an apostrophe, and I'm not sure it needed one. But yeah, it didn't quite land for me either, that joke.
Right.
Okay. If I had to parse it, I think it suggests you're clever when in fact you're not.
Ah.
Which seems bizarrely unkind for Maria, so I don't think that's what it is.
Yeah, well, especially focusing on the S, whereas
On the
kind of
S, whereas the H would be the... I don't know.
yeah,
There was an old thing about when you have to explain the logic of a joke, it's a bad joke.
yeah, that definitely applies here, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Along with the maxim about if you once you dissect a joke, no matter how good it is, it's dead.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the other thing I noticed too, this is probably also odd to circle back to, but as we've done this, and it's in the same
Yes.
scene, Alex is abnormally preoccupied with finding out who's getting that dream date. Are we to think he submitted his name? Or is he just in on Maria's plot?
Um,
Or neither, and is there another option? Because he's
I
the
didn't
one
think
that...
he was preoccupied with that at all. He was preoccupied with the concert
Well,
stuff.
that's what I thought, but then when they start to announce the dream date, he turns up the volume and seems to tune in.
Yeah, I think he's not quite sure what they're announcing. He thought they might be giving a hint about the headliners or something.
Oh, that would make more sense. Because then when Maria says she thought it was romantic, he says, really, or something, with incredulity, and I
Right.
echo him.
Yes.
But, yes. Okay, that makes more sense to me. Sorry I can't do anything for you about the wits.
That's okay. You validated my confusion.
That is good. Right, shall we try and rate this?
Yes. Yes. I think I will give it 5 parking meter sparklers.
Aha, okay. What do I give it? I don't know. Oh dear. Something. Probably.
Definitely deserve something.
It does deserve something, and actually, in spite of me ranting about it, I do quite like this episode. No, it's just one of those ones where I'm reaching for a thing and coming up completely short. I think I give it 4 incinerated whirlwind galaxies, or whatever they were.
Right.
What were they?
Planet with rings.
Planet with rings. Yeah,
Okay.
that
yeah.
sounds good. 4 planets with rings.
Okay, excellent.
If you agree or disagree with us, you can get in touch via Twitter at @alienscast, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/alienscast, or visit our blog at alienscast.com.
If you enjoyed this episode, please link to us on your blog, on Twitter, Facebook, wherever else you are on the internet. You can reach us by email at illegalalienscast@gmail.com. We actually got a very interesting message from a lawyer who is trying to track down Mrs. Topolsky because there's a Mr. Topolsky with $7.5 million in a bank account, so I'll be posting that to the blog soon.
If anyone's got an address for her, or, a forwarding
Yes.
address or something, I'm sure she'd be
Yes.
glad of the money.
Yep. And our theme music is Epic Trailer Intro by Honey Lemon.
This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Find out more by searching for Creative Commons.
I'm Chris Calworth.
And I'm Claire, and this is Illegal Aliens, a Roswell podcast. We'll be taking a hiatus next week to make sure we can stay one step ahead of the alien hunters. But join us on Monday, August 7th, 2017 for a discussion of the 15th episode of Season 1, Independence Day.
In which Maria starts dosing Liz with herbal medicine again, and Michael proves himself a sore loser at Monopoly.
Well, it does take forever. I don't blame him.
Yeah, and especially when kind of you're on the ropes and you're just not being started yet, that can be very frustrating.
Monopoly is what you play when it's been raining for 10 days. It's going to rain for another 10. And you have exhausted every other board game.